Thanks for joining us on this episode of the MFRR in Focus. I wanted to kind of start by asking you just to tell me a little bit about your father, the type of person he was, and the crime reporting that he was specialized in during his career.
To start off, I want to thank you for including me in this episode. And as regards to my father was a very simple man. He didn't want riches. He didn't want extravagance. He wanted to have fun. He wanted to eat good food, to drink fine wine, to go on vacation. And the other thing he actually really loved was to help people. And the crime he was the reports was around that. He was a journalist because he thought that was the best way to help people and serve, while also having the time to do the things he wanted. So he specialized in investigative journalism as far as crime goes. And he had also opened a site in the last probably 10, 11 years. I don't actually remember because I was too young when the site was formed, where it had taken a wider spectrum of political and social events. But his primary focus had always been crime and organized crime and terrorism.
I mean, obviously, yeah, the killing shocked the country and in the European journalistic community as well. How much support and solidarity have you and your family received so far, both in Greece and internationally?
The support hasn't been great, but it hasn't been bad either. We did make clear that we did not want any support in the way of money. We did not want any support in any of those forms. We actually wanted to send a message that what my father's killing didn't have to be viewed as something to make people scared. My father's feeling was inspiring. My father's killing was hope, because he showed that when you are one man, my father did never carry a gun. He did not believe in guns. He showed that one man with only a stroke of his pen, as he would have poetically claimed, can change the world, can make it a better place. So that's the thing that we wanted to see across the world and be heard. And that's the support we wanted to see from Greece and other countries. And we didn't see that. We didn't see hope being spread through my father's killing. We saw fear, we saw prejudice, not hope.
Well, yeah, investigations by police are underway now. But I wanted to ask about what the understanding is at this time of you and your family as to the motivation or the reason for this attack and why a death contract might have been taken out.
We actually have no idea. We've been in talk with the authorities that are handling the matter, and they seem great. But we have no clue. He wasn't really going after something at the time, as far as most people know. There might be someone that knows something we don't, but he was more, it was the quarantine, he was always inside with us, so he didn't have, at least as far as our understanding goes, he wasn't searching something. He had been on hit lists in the past from terrorist organizations and from mobsters being with a bit of a, with air quotes, because we don't have mobsters here, but something similar. But this time there had not been talk of him. No one had tried to scare him off, which has happened in the past. It was more of a shot behind the back, both figuratively and literally.
I mean, it's now been 6 months since the death. And despite the collection of substantial amounts of data, security camera footage, I think forensic analysis as well, multiple interviews, obviously, no suspects have been publicly identified and no arrests have been made. Public information about the status of the investigation seems to be really, really scarce. So I wanted to ask how you judge the overall response of the Greek authorities so far, how much communication have you and your family had with them about the progress or the status of the investigation, and how hopeful are you that his killers, will face justice?
Like I previously mentioned, we have been getting intel and we have been in touch with the people that are searching the matter. However, I do not think that what killed my father was a person, a gun, or even a mastermind. What killed my father was systemic problems that he was trying to fight, and as I mentioned before, he had been on hit lists before. It wasn't the first time this happened. So if the man who ordered my father's killing and his killers and the gun that was used wasn't the one in the execution, something else would have been, because my father wasn't fighting a single man, he was fighting a systemic problem. And as long as that systemic problem persists, no one can actually guarantee my father's life and anyone who truly believes in justice and freedom and the truth being out there. So what I would want to see from the government is to focus on the real problems and not to put blame on a person who, of course, has blame and has to face justice, but to look behind that. What can we do so that won't happen again? Can we prosecute one man? No, because someone else would take his place, like someone else would have shot the gun. We have to do something deeper than that. Something is going wrong. And that's what both the authorities and the government should aspire to fix, should aspire to change.
You mentioned there's systemic problems that are far wider than one case, one man, one issue. So to to stay with that idea, I wanted to ask what you think are some of the wider implications of your father's murder for democracy in Greece, and the freedom of the media in Greece.
Of course, that is the matter at hand. That is the worst part of it, not for me and my family, of course, but for everyone else. Because if you cannot trust the journalists to say the truth because they're scared, then who can you trust? What can you do? That's the main reason that we are scared, because we don't actually see people being truthful. And I know from an insider that even in cases that do not involve crimes, such as political mishaps, channels are made to lie by the executives in order to have goodwill with the government, which shouldn't happen. A journalist's job is to show the truth, maybe put in an opinion here or there. That's not up to me. My father thought he should, not that he should, actually that he ought to. So we are seeing cases of people being stopped from talking, my father as well, because he was going to challenge someone who was in political power. Now, that happens all the time. I recently came into contact, like I said, with the informer, and I asked him, because something happens in Greece that had everyone looking, and it was a horrible event. Why don't the media show that off? Why aren't they putting more pressure on it? And he said, because we are being told by higher ups that we should not. And we have to have job security, because if we don't have job security, then we cannot raise our families and our children, which is a fact. And someone that is younger, like me, and doesn't have a family yet, cannot begin to understand. However, do you want your children to be raised in a world like this? And then comes the cynicism and the true form of the world, the realism that some exclaim and proclaim. I believe that is the coward's way. It takes someone who has courage to be brave, to believe that the world can be a better place, and it takes effort.
Dimitris, thank you so much for speaking with us. We really appreciate it. And the MFRR stands, by your side and that of your family. We'll continue to fight for justice for your father. So thanks again.
Thank you very much for this opportunity.